She woke up at 3 in the morning, 8 months pregnant, and she could see her own breath. The thermostat on the wall glowed blue, 42 degrees, in her own bedroom in a $3 million house, while her millionaire husband slept in a warm bed 50 feet away. She thought she was going crazy. He told her she was hormonal, paranoid, imagining things. But she was not imagining anything. What she did not know was that her billionaire father had already installed thermal cameras throughout the house. What those cameras captured would expose a plot so twisted, so calculated, so evil that it would shake her to her core. Her husband was not just cheating on her. He was not just neglecting her. He was systematically trying to freeze her into a miscarriage. And he had been planning it for months. This is the story of how one woman escaped the coldest marriage in America, and how her father's thermal cameras lit up the truth that would destroy her husband forever. Stay with me. You will not believe what happens next. The baby kicked at 3:17 in the morning. Carolyn Ashford could see her own breath. She blinked in the darkness, confused, disoriented. Her fingers felt numb beneath the quilts. 3 quilts. She had piled 3 quilts on the bed before falling asleep, and still the cold had found her. The smart thermostat on the wall glowed blue in the darkness. The digital display showed a number that made no sense, 42 degrees. Carrie pushed herself up slowly. One hand braced against her swollen belly. 8 months pregnant. The baby kicked again, harder this time, a protest against the cold that had invaded their space. She stumbled toward the thermostat. Her bare feet hit the hardwood floor, and she gasped at the shock. Ice, the floor felt like solid ice beneath her skin. Each step sent pain shooting through her heels. The screen showed a lock icon. Parental controls enabled. Settings adjusted by primary user, Derek. Her husband of 3 years had locked her out of her own bedroom thermostat in February, in Connecticut, while she carried their child. Carrie stood there for a long moment. Her breath formed small clouds in front of her face. The cold bit at her cheeks, her ears, her fingers. This could not be right. There had to be a mistake, some kind of malfunction. She pulled her robe from the chair. The silk did nothing against the February chill. Her body shivered involuntarily as she waddled down the hallway, one hand on the wall for balance, one hand on her belly, protecting, always protecting. The baby shifted inside her, uncomfortable, restless, sensing something wrong. The living room hit her like a wall of warmth, 72 degrees. The fireplace crackled softly in the corner. Amber light danced across the leather furniture. The smell of burning oak filled her lungs. Warmth wrapped around her like an embrace. Derek sat in his favorite chair, the one facing the fire. Laptop open on his knees, glass of bourbon at his elbow. He wore a thin cotton shirt, sleeves rolled up, comfortable, relaxed, not a single goosebump on his skin. He did not look up when she entered. "The bedroom is freezing," Carrie said. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "Is it?" He took a sip of his drink. The ice clinked against the crystal glass, a soft, casual sound. "Derek, it's 42 degrees in there. I'm 8 months pregnant." He finally looked at her. That look, the one she had started to recognize over the past few months, the one that made her feel small, unreasonable, hysterical for daring to exist, hysterical for daring to complain. "The thermostat has been acting up," he said. His voice held patience, the kind of patience reserved for difficult children. "I'll call someone Monday." "It's Thursday." "Then I'll call someone Monday." Carrie stood there, the warmth of the living room wrapped around her body, a cruel contrast. Her room was 42 degrees, this room was 72 degrees, a 30-degree difference. In the same house. "I need heat tonight," she said. "The baby needs heat tonight." Derek sighed, long and slow, the sound of a patient man dealing with an irrational woman, the sound she had heard too many times lately. "Then sleep on the couch, Carrie. I don't know what you want me to do at 3 in the morning. Something shifted in Carrie's chest, a small crack in the foundation of everything she believed about her marriage, about her husband, about her life. She turned toward the kitchen, slowly, carefully, her eyes scanning the walls. The thermostat panel hung on the wall behind Derek's chair. Zone controls, a feature of their smart home system. She had never paid attention to them before. Derek handled all the technical things. She walked closer. Read the display. Living room, 72 degrees. Kitchen, 70 degrees. Master bedroom, 71 degrees. Office, 68 degrees. Guest suite east, 42 degrees. Her room, the room Derek had insisted she take 3 months ago. For her comfort, he had said, so his tossing and turning would not disturb her precious sleep, so she could rest peacefully without his snoring. Only her room. Every other room in the house was warm, only hers was cold. You did this on purpose. The words came out as a whisper. Derek set down his glass. The crystal made a sharp sound against the side table. Carrie, you're being hormonal. The pregnancy is making you paranoid. His voice was calm, reasonable, gentle, even. Come sit by the fire. Warm up. You'll feel better in the morning. Hormonal, paranoid. How many times had she heard those words in the past 3 months? How many times had she believed them? She looked at the thermostat panel again. Guest suite east, 42 degrees. The number had not changed. The number was not a malfunction. I saw it, Derek, the zone controls. My room is the only one below 70 degrees. The system is glitchy, I've told you that. These smart home systems never work properly. Every other room is warm. Carrie, he stood up, walked toward her, put his hands on her shoulders. His palms were warm, comfortable. You're exhausted. You're not sleeping well. The pregnancy hormones are making you see things that aren't there. She looked into his eyes, blue eyes, the same eyes she had fallen in love with 4 years ago. The same eyes that had promised to love and protect her. Those eyes showed nothing, no warmth, no concern, just patience, calculated patience. I'm going back to bed, she said. Do you want me to get you another blanket? No, I'll be fine. She walked back down the hallway. Her feet hit the cold floor. Her body began to shiver again as she approached her room. She closed the door, locked it, a small act of defiance, a small claim to her own space. The cold wrapped around her immediately. Her breath formed clouds. The thermostat glowed blue, 42 degrees. Her phone was dead. She reached for the charger on the nightstand. Gone. Carrie checked the outlet. Empty. She unplugged the lamp, plugged it back in, unplugged it. Maybe she was remembering wrong. Maybe she had moved the charger herself. Maybe Derek was right. Maybe she was paranoid. She checked 3 times. Plug, unplug, plug, unplug, plug. The charger was not there. It had been there yesterday. She remembered plugging in her phone before bed. She remembered the green light on the cable. The charger had been moved. Again. Last week it was her reading glasses. The week before, her favorite slippers. Small things, insignificant things, things she could have misplaced herself, but she had not misplaced them. She knew that now. Carrie grabbed every blanket she could find, the decorative throw from the chair, the quilt her mother had made before she died, the fleece blanket she kept for cold mornings, the extra comforter from the closet. She piled them all on the bed, crawled beneath them, pulled them up to her chin. Still cold, still shivering. The baby kicked, restless, uncomfortable, protesting. Carrie had an idea, desperate, ridiculous, but necessary. She went into the bathroom, the only room with a lock that still worked. Derek had removed the bedroom lock last month. For safety, he had said. What if she fell? What if she needed help? She turned on the hot water in the bathtub, full blast. Steam rose toward the ceiling. The mirror fogged over within minutes. The small space began to warm. Carrie sat on the bathroom floor, wrapped in blankets, leaning against the tub, breathing in warm, wet air. The baby kicked, settled, kicked again, settled. I know, Carrie whispered. Her hand pressed against her belly. I know it's cold. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She did not cry. Not at first. The tears came later, silent, steady, rolling down her cheeks while she sat on the bathroom floor at 4 a.m, 8 months pregnant, freezing in her own home, in a house worth $3 million, married to a man worth $12 million. The man she married was sleeping in a warm bed 50 feet away, or maybe he was still by the fire, drinking bourbon, not thinking about her at all. She was not crazy. She was not paranoid. The thermostat showed 42 degrees. She saw it. She read the zone controls. Every room was warm except hers. The steam from the bathtub kept her alive until morning. When dawn finally came, gray and cold through the frosted window, Carrie had made a decision. She was going to call her father. Howard Mercer answered on the first ring. He always answered on the first ring when Carrie called. It was 6:30 in the morning. He had probably been awake for hours. Her father never slept much. "Sweetheart, it's early. Is everything all right?" "Dad," her voice cracked on the word. "I think something is wrong." She told him everything: the cold, the thermostat, the zone controls, Derek's dismissal, the charger that kept moving, the reading glasses that disappeared, the slippers she could not find. She told him about sleeping on the bathroom floor, about running hot water just to create steam, about wrapping herself in 5 blankets and still shivering. Howard was quiet for a long moment. The silence stretched across the phone line. Heavy, dangerous. Carrie knew that silence. She had heard it when business rivals tried to cheat her father. She had heard it when lawyers brought bad news. She had heard it when her mother died. That silence meant someone was about to have a very bad day. "How long has this been happening?" Howard asked. Carrie closed her eyes, leaned against the bathroom wall. The tile was cold against her back. "I thought it was just the old heating system at first, but now I think maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4. "And where is Derek sleeping?" "The master bedroom. He said my snoring from the pregnancy was keeping him awake, that I should have my own space to be comfortable." Another silence, longer this time. Carrie could picture her father sitting in his study, coffee growing cold on his desk, that look in his eyes, the one that made grown men nervous. "Carrie, I'm sending Graham over today to check your heating system. Your brother knows about this kind of technology. Don't tell Derek." "Dad, I don't want to cause problems. Maybe I'm overreacting." "You're not overreacting. You're 8 months pregnant and your room is 42 degrees. That's not a heating malfunction. That's a choice." The word hung in the air. Choice. Someone had chosen to make her room cold. Someone had chosen to freeze her while she carried their child. "I'll be there by noon," Howard said. "We need to talk, in person. Don't say anything to Derek until I get there." He hung up before she could argue. Carrie sat on the bathroom floor for another 10 minutes. The hot water had run out. The steam was fading. The cold was creeping back in, but something else was warming inside her, something that had been frozen for months. Hope. Someone believed her. Her father believed her. She was not crazy, she was not paranoid, and she was not alone. Graham Mercer arrived at 2 in the afternoon. He drove a black SUV, practical, unassuming, nothing that would attract attention in the wealthy neighborhood. Carrie's older brother was 32 years old, broad shoulders like their father, the same analytical eyes, the same quiet intensity. He worked in technology security, something with systems and networks. Carrie had never fully understood what he did. She understood now. She understood why her father had sent him. Derek was at the office, a meeting that could not be rescheduled, he had said. He had kissed Carrie's forehead before leaving, told her to rest, told her to stop worrying about the heat. "I called the repair company," he had said. "They're sending someone next week." Next week, another 7 nights of freezing, another 7 nights of bathroom floors and steam and blankets. "Thank you," she had said. The words tasted like ash in her mouth. Now Graham walked through the house, a small device in his hand, something that measured temperature, something that read network signals. Carrie did not ask what it was. She did not need to know. He moved from room to room, silent, methodical. His face revealed nothing. Carrie followed him, watching, waiting. The baby kicked restlessly inside her. Finally, Graham stopped in the living room, set down the device, looked at his sister. "The heating system is fine," he said. Carrie's heart sank. "Then why is my room freezing?" "Because someone installed zone controls 6 weeks ago, advanced zone controls, the kind that let you set different temperatures for different rooms." 6 weeks ago, Carrie tried to remember. What had happened 6 weeks ago? The beginning of her 3rd trimester? The baby shower her mother-in-law had reluctantly hosted? The night Derek suggested separate bedrooms. "Your room is the only one set below 50 degrees at night," Graham continued. "It's programmed to drop to 40 from midnight to 6 in the morning. Every single night. Programmed. The word echoed in Carrie's mind. Programmed meant intentional. Programmed meant deliberate. Programmed meant someone had sat at a computer and decided to freeze her. Who installed it, she asked, but she already knew the answer. The system is registered to Derek's company account. The installation was done by a contractor he's used before. The programming changes are logged under his user credentials. Derek, her husband, the father of her child. Why would he do this? Carrie whispered. Graham did not answer the question. Instead, he pulled out his phone, showed her photos he had taken, screenshots of the zone control settings, logs of temperature changes, evidence. Dad's already working on something, Graham said. But Carrie, I need to ask you some questions. Has Derek ever hurt you physically? No. The answer came automatically, reflexively. Never. He's never touched me. Has he ever threatened you? No, Derek doesn't raise his voice. He never gets angry. Graham nodded slowly. There are different kinds of hurt, Carrie. Different kinds of control. The words settled into her chest, heavy. True. We're installing cameras, Graham said. Thermal imaging, the kind that shows heat signatures. Dad wants proof before we do anything. Proof that no lawyer can dismiss. Proof of what? Proof that your husband is deliberately trying to harm you. And your baby. The baby kicked. Hard. As if understanding. As if agreeing. That night, Carrie lay in her cold bedroom. The thermostat glowed blue in the darkness. 42 degrees at midnight. Exactly as Graham had said. She pulled the quilts higher. 5 blankets now. Graham had brought 2 more from their father's house. Premium down. The kind that cost $300 each. Still not enough. Still shivering. But at least she knew now. At least she understood. The memories came without invitation, flooding in like cold water through a crack in the ice. 6 months ago, the night Derek suggested separate bedrooms, they had been sitting in the living room, fire crackling, wine in their glasses, his hand on her belly, feeling the baby move. I've been thinking, Derek had said, his voice gentle, caring. You need rest, real rest. And I toss and turn so much at night. With the baby coming, you should have your own space. Carrie had protested. I like sleeping next to you. I know, babe, but this is for you, for the baby. I keep you awake with my snoring. You need peace and quiet. You need to be comfortable. And she had been touched by his concern, grateful even. What a thoughtful husband, always thinking of her comfort, always putting her needs first. The memory shifted, changed, revealed its true colors. 4 months ago, her favorite reading lamp disappeared from her room. I took it to my office, Derek had said, casual, offhand. The light in there is terrible. I needed it for late-night work. But I use that lamp every night. Do you? You don't read much anymore anyway. The pregnancy makes you tired. She had stopped reading. When had she stopped reading? She used to devour 3 books a week. Now she could not remember the last time she finished one. The memory shifted again. 2 months ago. The bathroom lock. I had maintenance fix it, Derek had said, concern in his voice, care in his eyes. You could slip and fall in there. What if you locked yourself in? What if something happened and I couldn't get to you? I like having privacy in the bathroom. More than you like being safe? More than our baby being safe? She had felt guilty for wanting a lock. Guilty for wanting privacy. Guilty for putting her own comfort above their child's safety. She had accepted it every single time. Every small theft. Every tiny removal of her autonomy. The reading lamp, the bathroom lock, the bedroom separation, the phone charger, the reading glasses, the slippers, piece by piece, month by month. He had been taking her apart. Carrie stared at the ceiling. Her breath formed small clouds above her face. The cold bit at her exposed cheeks. She picked up her phone. The browser history stared back at her. Searches from the past 3 months. Late-night questions typed in desperation. Is my husband gaslighting me? Signs of emotional abuse during pregnancy. Am I being paranoid or is something wrong? Why does my husband make me feel crazy? She had searched these things. She had read the articles. She had taken the quizzes. Every single one said the same thing, warning signs, red flags, patterns of control. But Derek was so loving. Derek was so gentle. Derek never raised his voice. Derek never hit her. Derek just made her room 42 degrees while she was 8 months pregnant. A validation whisper rose in her chest. Not a question this time. A statement, clear and true. I am not crazy. The pattern is real. My husband has been doing this deliberately for months. She did not sleep that night, but she stopped doubting herself. The next morning, Derek brought her breakfast in bed, scrambled eggs, whole wheat toast, fresh squeezed orange juice, a single red rose in a crystal vase, everything arranged perfectly on a silver tray. I'm sorry about the heat situation, he said. His voice was warm, apologetic. I called the repair company first thing this morning. They're coming out tomorrow instead of next week. Carrie looked at the tray, at the rose, at her husband's concerned, handsome face. 3 weeks ago, she would have believed him. 3 weeks ago, she would have felt guilty for doubting him. 3 weeks ago, she would have eaten the eggs and thanked him for being so thoughtful. Thank you, she said now. The words felt hollow. Derek sat on the edge of her bed, took her hand. His palm was warm against her cold fingers. I've been worried about you, Carrie. You seem different lately. Distant, paranoid. There was that word again. Paranoid. I'm just tired, she said. I know, babe. The pregnancy takes so much out of you. Maybe you should talk to someone, a therapist, someone who specializes in pregnancy-related anxiety. Anxiety. Another word, another label, another way to make her feel wrong, broken, crazy. I'll think about it, she said. Derek kissed her forehead. That's all I ask. I love you, Carrie. I just want you to be happy. He left for work. The door clicked shut behind him. His car started in the driveway. The sound faded into the morning quiet. Carrie waited 10 minutes. Then she picked up her phone. The cameras are installed, Graham said. Living room, hallway, your bedroom, kitchen, all hidden, all recording. How long until we have what we need? Dad says 48 hours, maybe less. What happens then? A pause, a breath. Then we find out exactly what kind of man you married. Carrie ended the call. She looked at the breakfast tray. The eggs were cold now. The toast was soggy. The rose was wilting at the edges. She picked up the tray, walked to the kitchen, dumped all of it in the trash. Then she sat at the counter and cried. Not because she was sin, because she was angry, because she had been so blind, because she had trusted him. The baby kicked, strong, insistent. I know, Carrie whispered. Her hand pressed against her belly. I know. We're getting out, I promise. We're getting out. The thermal footage arrived on a Sunday afternoon. Howard Mercer sat in his home office. 3 monitors glowed on his desk. The house was quiet. The staff had been given the day off. Only Graham was there, standing behind his father's chair. The footage played in silence. The Ashford house appeared in blues and oranges and yellows. Thermal imaging, heat signatures. Every warm object glowed bright. Every cold space showed dark. The living room glowed orange, 72 degrees, warm and comfortable. The kitchen glowed orange, 70 degrees. The refrigerator showed cool blue. Everything else was warm. The master bedroom glowed orange, 71 degrees. Derek's sleeping form showed bright yellow. Comfortable, peaceful, undisturbed. The guest suite showed blue, cold blue. A rectangle of ice in a warm house. And there, curled in the corner of that blue space, was a small orange figure. Human body heat against frozen air. His daughter, 8 months pregnant, shivering. The timestamp read 2:47 in the morning. Howard watched his daughter huddle beneath blankets, watched her curl into a ball, watched her body shake with cold. He watched her get up, stumble to the bathroom, turn on the water, sit on the floor, create a tiny pocket of warmth in a house full of cold. His hands trembled. Graham switched to the hallway camera, a different angle, a different timestamp. Derek walked down the hallway, 3:12 in the morning. He paused outside Carrie's door, listened for a moment, checked his phone, smiled, then kept walking, back to his warm master bedroom, back to his comfortable 71-degree air. Howard stood up, walked to his window, looked out at the snow covering Greenwich. His wife, Margaret, died when Carrie was 12 years old. Breast cancer, 18 months from diagnosis to death. He had held her hand at the end, promised to take care of their children. He had built Mercer Industries from nothing. A small tech company became a medium tech company, became a billion-dollar empire. $3.4 billion. Forbes list, magazine covers, presidential dinners. None of it mattered. None of it meant anything. His daughter was freezing in her own home. Her husband was smiling about it. "There's more," Graham said quietly. Howard turned back to the monitors. His jaw was tight. His hands were fists. Graham pulled up different footage. The driveway camera, a silver sedan, license plate clearly visible. "This car has been at the house 3 times this week. Always when Carrie is at her doctor's appointments. Always for about 2 hours." The plate traced back to Natalie Vance, 28 years old. Marketing coordinator at Derek's company, single, no criminal record. But that was not the worst part. Graham pulled up text messages, extracted from the home network. Derek had connected his phone to the house Wi-Fi. Everything synced, everything stayed, everything recoverable. Derek to Natalie, "She's getting suspicious about the cold. I told her she's being hormonal." Natalie to Derek, "How much longer until she snaps?" Derek to Natalie, "Doctor says stress can induce early labor. If she loses the baby, she'll be too broken to fight the divorce." Howard read the messages once, twice, 3 times. If she loses the baby, too broken to fight the divorce. His son-in-law was not just having an affair. He was not just neglecting his wife. He was not just being cruel. He was systematically trying to cause his pregnant wife to miscarry, using cold, using stress, using psychological torture. Howard walked to his bar cart, poured bourbon into a crystal glass, did not drink it. He stood at the window for a long time, 5 minutes, 10. The snow whispered against the glass. The grandfather clock ticked in the corner. The bourbon sat untouched on the cart. His daughter, his pregnant daughter, freezing every night, crying on bathroom floors, doubting her own sanity. While her husband smiled in the hallway, Howard picked up his phone. His hand was steady now. The rage had crystallized into something cold, something sharp, something dangerous. He dialed Richard Brennan, the best divorce attorney in Connecticut, the best in the Northeast, some said. Expensive, ruthless, effective. "Richard, I need to destroy someone, legally, completely, professionally, and personally, and I need it done before my daughter goes into labor." A pause. Papers shuffled in the background. A chair creaked. "Who?" "My son-in-law, Derek Ashford." Another pause, longer this time. "Tell me everything." Howard told him everything: the cold room, the zone controls, the thermal footage, the text messages about hoping she would miscarry. Richard listened without interrupting. When Howard finished, there was a long silence. "I'll clear my calendar," Richard said finally. "This is going to be my only case until it's finished." "What do we have?" "Criminal charges, reckless endangerment of an unborn child, conspiracy to commit assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress, civil suits, everything we can think of." "Good. What about his business?" "He has government contracts, defense work, there are morality clauses." So when we're done with Derek Ashford, he won't be able to get a job selling used cars in Nevada." Howard smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "When can we start?" "I'm already starting. I'll be at your house in 2 hours. Have the footage ready." Carrie sat in her father's study, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, a mug of hot tea in her hands, finally warm. Graham had brought her to the estate that morning. A Sunday drive, she had told Derek. Brunch with her father. Nothing unusual. She had not brought a suitcase. That would come later. The thermal footage played on the wall screen, projected large, impossible to ignore. Carrie watched herself on screen. A small orange figure huddled in a sea of blue, her body heat fighting against the cold, losing. She watched herself cry, watched herself get up, watched herself stumble to the bathroom, watched herself create a tiny pocket of warmth by running hot water. She watched Derek walk past her door, check his phone, smile, smile. "There's more," Graham said quietly. The text messages appeared on screen, Large letters, impossible to deny. If she loses the baby, she'll be too broken to fight the divorce. Carrie's tea mug slipped from her fingers. It shattered against the hardwood floor. Hot liquid spread across the Persian rug. Ceramic pieces scattered everywhere. Nobody moved to clean it up. The baby kicked. Hard. Carrie realized her hand had been on her belly the entire time, protecting even when she did not know she needed to. How long? Her voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. How long has he been planning this? The text messages go back 4 months, Graham said. His voice was gentle, careful. The zone controls were installed 6 weeks ago. The affair has been going on for at least a year. A year, 1/3 of her marriage to Millionaire. Derek had been sleeping with another woman, planning to destroy her, hoping she would lose their baby. Howard knelt beside her chair. His hand covered hers. Warm, steady, the hands that had held her when she scraped her knees as a child, the hands that had wiped her tears when her mother died. We're going to end him, sweetheart. Legally, professionally, completely. Carrie looked at her father, at the rage barely contained behind his eyes, at the love that fueled that rage. I was going to raise a child with this man. I was going to spend my life with him. The words came out flat, hollow. I know. He was trying to kill our baby, with cold, with stress. He wanted me to lose our child so he could take the money and leave. I know. And I didn't see it. I didn't see any of it. I thought I was going crazy. Howard squeezed her hand. You're not crazy. You were never crazy. He made you think that. That's what abusers do. Abuser. The words settled into Carrie's chest, heavy. True, her husband was an abuser. Her marriage was a lie. Everything she thought she knew was wrong. The glass glittered on the floor. The tea stained the rug. The footage kept playing on the wall. Carrie watched herself shiver, watched herself cry, watched herself fight for survival in her own home. She had been invisible to her husband. Worse than invisible. She had been an obstacle, a problem to be solved, an equation to be balanced. Something shifted inside her, something that had been frozen for months. Anger, real, burning anger. What do we do now? She asked. Howard smiled, that dangerous smile she remembered from her childhood. The smile that meant someone had made a terrible mistake. Now we teach Derek Ashford what happens when you hurt a Mercer. The universal realization hit Carrie at 3 a.m. She lay in her childhood bedroom, the one she had slept in until she left for college. Pink walls faded to rose, stuffed animals still on the shelf, pictures of her mother on the dresser. Warm, safe. Her father's house had never felt cold. The truth crystallized in her mind, clear and sharp and undeniable. He never loved me. He never loved me for one single day of our marriage. He loved my family's money. He loved the connections. He loved what I could give him. He loved the idea of being Howard Mercer's son-in-law. But he never loved me. He never even liked me. I was a tool, a stepping stone, a means to an end, the prenup. She remembered now. Derek had insisted on the prenuptial agreement. For both of their protection, he had said, so neither of them could be accused of marrying for money. She had thought it was romantic, a gesture of good faith. Proof that he loved her for herself, not her family's wealth. She had not read it carefully. Her lawyer had explained the basics. She had signed where they told her to sign. If they divorced without children, Carrie received a settlement of $2 million. Modest by Mercer standards. Nothing Derek could live on forever. If they divorced with children, Carrie received full custody and substantial support, $20 million, plus child support, plus alimony. But if Carrie lost the baby during pregnancy, if there was no child, if something went wrong, $2 million. Derek walks away, marriage annulled, game over. He had calculated everything, every cold night, every moved charger, every dismissive word. Every time he called her paranoid or hormonal or crazy, he was not trying to save the marriage. He was not trying to fix the heating system. He was not worried about her mental health. He was trying to make her miscarry, trying to stress her body until it gave up, trying to freeze her baby out of existence. Carrie put her hand on her belly. The baby kicked, strong, alive, despite everything. We survived him, she whispered into the darkness. We're going to survive the rest, too. Megan Holloway sat across from Carrie at a cafe in downtown Greenwich. The Monday morning crowd buzzed around them, lawyers and bankers and trophy wives ordering complicated coffee drinks. Megan was Carrie's best friend, had been since freshman year of college. She was the first person Carrie called when she met Derek. The first person she told about the engagement. The first person she told about the pregnancy. She was also the last person Derek wanted Carrie to see. He's been busy isolating you, Megan said. Her latte sat untouched, getting cold. I've watched it happen for 3 years. Carrie wrapped her hands around her tea mug. Chamomile, no caffeine, safe for the baby. What do you mean? Do you remember your birthday 2 years ago? Derek planned that trip to Napa, just the two of you, very romantic. I remember. I had planned a surprise party, 30 of your closest friends. I'd been working on it for months. Derek found out and convinced you to go to Napa instead. Carrie frowned. He said you were too busy with work to celebrate. I wasn't busy. He lied. He didn't want you surrounded by people who love you. The words landed like stones in still water, ripples spreading outward. There's more, Megan continued. Your job. The one you quit because Derek said the stress wasn't good for getting pregnant. The company was downsizing anyway. No, they weren't. I know someone in HR. They offered you a promotion 3 months before you quit. You never told me about it. A promotion. Carrie had no memory of this. Had Derek intercepted the email? Had he convinced her to forget? Your yoga class, your book club, your volunteer work at the animal shelter, everything you used to love, everything that connected you to other people. Gone, one by one. Carrie stared at her friend, at the anger in Megan's eyes, at the truth she had been holding back for years. Why didn't you say something? I tried. Every time I tried, you defended him. You weren't ready to hear it. Megan reached across the table, took Carrie's hand. I'm not blaming you. That's what abusers do. They isolate you first. Then they make you dependent. Then they make you doubt yourself. By the time you realize what's happening, you're trapped. Trapped. The word echoed in Carrie's mind. There's something else, Megan said. Her voice dropped lower. He's been telling people you're having mental health issues, that the pregnancy is making you unstable. Carrie's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. Jennifer from the country club asked me if you'd been hospitalized. Patricia from the charity board said Derek mentioned you were seeing a psychiatrist for delusions. The walls of the cafe seemed to close in. The chatter of the crowd faded to white noise. He's setting up a narrative, Carrie said. The truth became clear as she spoke it. He's preparing everyone to believe I'm crazy before I can tell them what he did. That's exactly what he's doing. Carrie thought about the past 3 months. Every time Derek suggested she see a therapist, every time he mentioned pregnancy hormones, every time he told her she was paranoid or imagining things. He was not concerned about her mental health. He was building a case against her, creating witnesses who would testify that she was unstable, setting up his defense before she even knew there was a fight coming. What do I do? Carrie asked. Megan's grip tightened on her hand. You fight back. You show everyone what he really is, and you make sure he never does this to anyone else. Carrie returned home to pack more clothes, just an hour, just enough time to grab essentials. Derek was supposed to be at work, a full day of meetings. He had told her he would be home late, but his car was in the driveway. Carrie sat in her own car for 5 minutes, watching the house, her heart pounding. She could leave, drive back to her father's house, come back later with Graham. No, she was done running, done hiding, done being afraid of the man she married. She walked inside. Derek stood in her bedroom, the cold bedroom, her 42-degree prison. He held the space heater Graham had secretly bought her, the one she had hidden in the closet, the one that kept her alive on the coldest nights. Where did this come from? His voice was calm, curious, but something dark lurked beneath the surface. My brother brought it. Carrie kept her voice steady. Because my room is freezing, Derek. Your father is trying to interfere in our marriage. This is exactly what I was worried about. He set down the space heater, stepped toward her, not threatening, never threatening, just present, taking up space, making her feel small. Carrie, I think you need help. Real help. Professional help. Here it comes, she thought. The script he's been rehearsing. Dr. Patterson is a wonderful psychiatrist. She specializes in pregnancy-related anxiety disorders. I've already called her office. They can see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, so fast, so eager to have her examined, to have her labeled, to have her committed. He wants me locked away. The realization struck like lightning. That's the backup plan. If the cold doesn't work, he'll have me declared mentally unfit. Take the baby, claim that I was too unstable to be a mother. I'll think about it, she said. Good girl. He smiled, that reassuring smile, the one she used to find comforting. This is for your own good. Our baby needs a healthy mother. Our baby. The words made her skin crawl. Derek kissed her forehead. Gentle, loving, the perfect husband comforting his troubled wife. I have to get back to the office. Will you be okay here alone? I'll be fine. Good. Rest. Take care of yourself. I'll be home by 7. He left. The door clicked shut. His car started in the driveway, pulled away. Carrie stood in the hallway for a long moment, breathing, processing. Then she checked her phone. 3 missed calls from her father. 1 text message. We have everything we need. Come home. Now. She did not pack a bag, did not grab her clothes, did not take anything that tied her to this house. She walked out the front door with nothing but her phone and her car keys. The house had never been her home. It had been her prison. Beautifully decorated, carefully maintained, temperature controlled, but a prison nonetheless. That night, Carrie stood in the doorway of what should have been the nursery. She had come back with Graham. Supervised, safe, just to get a few things. The nursery was empty, still primer white, no crib, no changing table, no mobile spinning gently in the corner. Derek had never let her finish decorating it. Not until we're sure everything is fine with the pregnancy, he had said. No point getting attached to a room we might not need. No point getting attached to her own child, to her own future, to the life growing inside her. She touched the wall where she had imagined hanging a mobile. Stars and moons, silver and gold, something magical for her baby to watch while falling asleep. The paint samples she had collected sat in a drawer somewhere. Lavender, sage green, soft yellow. She had never been allowed to choose. The crib she had ordered had been returned. Too early, Derek had said. Bad luck. The diaper bag she bought secretly sat in her closet at her father's house. Hidden, like contraband, like something shameful. Carrie closed her eyes. Let the grief wash over her. She had wanted this baby, desperately, completely. She had dreamed of this nursery for months, of midnight feedings and tiny fingers and first words and first steps. Derek had planned to take all of it. The baby, the dreams, the future. He had almost succeeded. She opened her eyes. The room was still empty, still waiting. But it would not wait here. Not anymore. She turned and walked away, left the empty nursery behind. At 2 a.m, she was safe at her father's house. Warm, protected. Tomorrow, the war would begin. Richard Brennan spread documents across Howard's conference table. Stacks of paper, folders color-coded by category, a laptop showing surveillance footage. Carrie sat at the head of the table, 8 months pregnant, exhausted, determined. Beside her sat Howard. Graham stood by the window. Outside, snow-covered Greenwich in pristine white. Here's what we're filing, Richard said. I'll walk you through each piece. He picked up the first folder. Read, Petition for divorce citing emotional abuse and deliberate endangerment. We have the thermal footage. We have the text messages. We have testimony from the installation to technician who set up the zone controls. The second folder, blue. Emergency protective order. Derek will not be allowed within 500 feet of you. He cannot contact you directly. All communication goes through attorneys. The third folder, green. Civil suit for intentional infliction of emotional distress. We're seeking damages, significant damages, punitive damages, the kind of number that shows up in legal textbooks. The fourth folder, Yiddish criminal referral to the district attorney. Reckless endangerment of an unborn child is a felony in Connecticut. Attempted feticide carries serious prison time. Richard paused. Let the words sink in. We're also investigating charges of conspiracy, stalking, and coercive control. New laws in Connecticut recognize patterns of psychological abuse. Derek's behavior fits every criterion. Carrie looked at the folders, at the evidence of her husband's cruelty organized into neat categories. What about his money? Howard asked. That's where it gets interesting. Richard pulled out another file. Derek Ashford's net worth is roughly $12 million, mostly tied up in his business. He thinks that makes him powerful. Richard looked at Howard. Your net worth is $3.4 billion. Derek isn't playing in the same league. He's not even playing the same sport. So we don't just divorce him, we dismantle him. Every business partner gets a detailed report on what he did. Every client learns the truth. Every investor sees the footage. Howard nodded slowly. The government contracts. Exactly. Derek's company has Defense Department work, security clearances, morality clauses in every contract. And when the DOD learns that Derek Ashford tried to freeze his pregnant wife into a miscarriage, those contracts disappear. His security clearance gets revoked. His business becomes worthless. Carrie picked up the pen. Her hand was steady. I don't want revenge, she said. The room went quiet. I don't want to destroy him for the sake of destroying him. What do you want? Richard asked. She thought for a long moment. The baby kicked inside her. Patient, waiting. I want him to face real consequences. I want other women to see that this kind of abuse doesn't go unpunished. I want to be free. Richard nodded. That's even better than revenge. That's justice, what know. Carrie signed the first document. Petition for divorce. Her signature was clear, strong. She signed the second. Emergency protective order. No hesitation. Third, fourth, fifth. Each signature, a declaration. Each page, a step toward freedom. Derek had tried to break her with cold, with isolation, with gaslighting. He had failed. The process server found Derek at his office on Tuesday afternoon, 2:30, the middle of the workday. The open floor plan meant everyone watched. His assistant, his business partner, the interns at their desks. Derek Ashford, the process server's voice carried. You've been served. The stack of papers hit Derek's desk with a heavy thud. Divorce petition, protective order, civil complaint, criminal investigation notice. Derek's face cycled through emotions. Confusion first, then recognition, then anger, finally fear. Fear. Carrie had never seen fear on Derek's face before. His assistant pretended to work on her computer. His business partner stood frozen in the conference room doorway. The interns whispered to each other. Derek picked up the papers, read the first page. The color drained from his face. Within an hour, the office knew. By the end of the day, the business community was buzzing. Derek Ashford, the golden boy of Connecticut investment circles, had been served with papers alleging abuse. The dominoes were starting to fall. The thermal footage leaked within the week. Not to the press. Howard was too strategic for that. Public scandal could backfire, could make Carrie look vindictive, could give Derek sympathy he did not deserve. Instead, the footage went to the right people. Carefully selected, strategically delivered. The wives of Derek's business partners received anonymous emails. Subject line, information about your husband's associate, attachments included. Susan Mercer sat in her living room and watched thermal footage of a pregnant woman freezing while her husband smiled. Patricia Williams stood in her kitchen and read text messages about hoping for a miscarriage. Jennifer Burke cried at her desk as she watched Carrie stumble to the bathroom, turn on hot water, and sit on the floor to survive. One by one, the wives called their husbands. One by one, conversations happened. Derek's business partner called first. I'm dissolving our partnership, effective immediately. My wife saw the footage. My daughter saw the footage. I can't be associated with you. Derek's largest client called second. We're terminating our contract. We represent family companies, companies with values. You tried to freeze your pregnant wife. We're done. The country club called third. Your membership has been suspended pending review. Don't come to the property. Don't contact other members. Our lawyers will be in touch. Within 72 hours, Derek Ashford's carefully constructed life began to crumble. Carrie watched from her father's house. Safe, warm, protected. She felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not revenge, nothing. "Is it wrong that I don't feel happy?" she asked Graham. They sat on the back porch. Snow covered the lawn. The afternoon sun made everything sparkle. "You're processing," Graham said. "Happiness will come later. Right now, your body is focused on survival, on growing a baby, on getting through this. What if it never comes? Then we deal with that too. But first we finish this. We make sure he can never hurt anyone again." The baby kicked, strong, insistent. "She's feisty today," Carrie said. "She?" Carrie smiled, a real smile. "The first in weeks. I've been calling her Margaret, after Mom. I think she would have liked that." Graham's eyes glistened. He looked away quickly. "Mom would have loved her," he said. "She would have loved watching you become a mother. Mom would have shot Derek." Graham laughed, a surprised, genuine sound. "Yeah, she probably would have. Then she would have served him tea and made him confess everything." They sat in silence, watching the sun set over the snow, feeling something like peace. Derek's voicemail arrived at midnight. Carrie was almost asleep. The phone buzzed on her nightstand. She let it go to voicemail. Listened to the message after it finished. "Carrie, this is insane. You're destroying my life over a thermostat malfunction. I never meant to hurt you. You know me. You know I would never hurt you." His voice was different, higher, desperate. "Your father is manipulating you. He never liked me. He's using this to break up our marriage. Please, can we just talk? Can we work this out?" Carrie listened to the message twice, analyzed every word. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender, classic Darvo pattern. She had read about it online during those late-night searches. He was not sorry. He was sorry he got caught. There was a difference. She forwarded the voicemail to Richard. An hour later, Derek's attorney contacted Richard. They wanted to negotiate. They were offering a settlement. "How much?" Carrie asked the next morning. $2 million in joint custody. Howard laughed. The sound held no warmth. "Tell them no," Carrie said. "They'll counter." "Tell them no again." Richard smiled. "We'll see them in court." The deposition took place in Richard Brennan's office. Neutral ground. Recorded. Everything by the book. Derek sat at one end of the mahogany table. Expensive suit, expensive haircut, expensive lawyer beside him. But something was different. His hands trembled slightly when he reached for his water. His eyes darted toward the door every few minutes. He looked like a man who had finally realized he was trapped. Richard began with simple questions. Name, address, occupation, building a foundation, establishing the record. Then the real questions began. "Mr. Ashford, did you install a zone control system in your home approximately 6 weeks before your wife left?" Derek's lawyer leaned forward. "My client will answer that he made upgrades to the home's heating system for energy efficiency purposes." The question was yes or no. Did you install the system? A long pause. Derek glanced at his lawyer. Received a small nod. "Yes." "Did you program your wife's bedroom to drop to 42 degrees between midnight and 6 in the morning?" Another pause. Longer. "The system malfunctioned. It wasn't intentional." "I have sworn testimony from the installation technician. He states that you specifically requested zone controls for the guest suite. He states that you asked him how cold the system could go without triggering the safety alerts." Derek's face went pale. "He's mistaken. He has work orders, signed by you. Would you like to see them?" Richard slid papers across the table. Derek did not look at them. "I have text messages from your phone to Natalie Vance. Shall I read them into the record?" "Objection." Derek's lawyer stood. "Those messages were illegally obtained. Those messages were extracted from the home network. Mrs. Ashford had legal access to that network, as did the security cameras your client forgot he connected to it." Richard slid another paper across the table. "If she loses the baby, she'll be too broken to fight the divorce. Did you write that, Mr. Ashford?" Derek stared at the paper, his mouth open, closed. No sound came out. Did you write that message? The room went silent. The court reporter's fingers hovered over her keys. I want to take a break, Derek said. We'll take a break when I finish this question. Did you write that message? Yes or no? Derek's hands were shaking visibly now. On the advice of counsel, his lawyer said quickly, my client declines to answer on Fifth Amendment grounds. Richard nodded slowly. For the record, let it be noted that the defendant invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination when asked about text messages describing his hope that his pregnant wife would miscarry. The court reporter typed, click, click, click. We'll take that break now, Richard said. 10 minutes. Then we discuss the other women. Derek's head snapped up. What other women? Richard smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. 10 minutes, Mr. Ashford. 3 other women came forward after the news spread through their social circles. The first was Amber Patterson, Derek's college girlfriend. They dated for 2 years. She had a miscarriage during their relationship. Unexplained complications. Excessive stress. I always wondered, Amber told Richard in her deposition. We had a perfect pregnancy until the last trimester. Then everything went wrong. I thought it was my body. My fault. She paused, wiped her eyes. Then I heard about Carrie, about the cold, and I remembered. Derek insisted on keeping the windows open, even in winter. He said fresh air was good for the baby. I was freezing every night. The second was Danielle Morrison, Derek's first fiancée. They were engaged for 8 months before she broke it off. He was controlling, Danielle said. Everything had to be his way. He monitored my phone, my emails, my friends. When I caught him lying about money, he threatened to destroy my reputation. She looked at Richard. I believed him. I was 24. I was scared. I left town, changed my name, started over. The third was Victoria Hartwell. They dated for 6 months, 3 years before Derek met Carrie. Things disappeared from my apartment, Victoria said. My keys, my glasses, my favorite sweater. I thought I was losing my mind. My therapist convinced me I was experiencing stress-related memory problems. She shook her head. I wasn't. He was taking things, moving things, making me doubt myself. I didn't understand it until I heard about Carrie. 3 women, 3 patterns, 3 sets of evidence. Derek Ashford had been doing this for over a decade. Carrie was just the one who got caught in his longest game. The criminal investigation expanded. The district attorney assigned additional prosecutors. The case file grew thicker every day. Dorothy Weaver's testimony added new dimensions. He had help, she told the investigators. His mother, Judith Ashford. She gave him advice. She helped him plan. Dorothy had more recordings, more evidence. 20 years of watching the Ashford family had taught her to pay attention. Mrs. Ashford called him 2 days before Carrie left. I heard the whole conversation through the intercom system. The recording played in Richard's office. Howard and Carrie listened in silence. Judith's voice filled the room. Sharp, cold, calculated. If the cold doesn't work, we move to the next phase. The doctors I found will certify her as mentally unstable. We'll have her committed before she can talk to anyone. The baby goes to you. The money follows. Carrie stopped breathing. They were going to take her baby, lock her in a psychiatric facility, steal her child and her freedom. Derek's voice on the recording, calm, agreeable. The psychiatrist, Dr. Patterson. She's already on board? She owes me a favor. Her license was suspended 10 years ago. I helped make it go away. Howard's face turned to stone. Is that enough for conspiracy charges? He asked Richard. That's enough for a lot of things, including potential medical fraud charges against the psychiatrist. The case was growing, spreading, touching everyone who had helped Derek in his plan. Justice was coming for all of them. The stress caught up to Carrie at 3 in the morning. Sharp pain, low in her abdomen, the kind that steals your breath, the kind that makes you forget everything else. She was staying at her father's estate, warm, safe, surrounded by people who loved her. But her body did not know that. Her body remembered the cold. Her body remembered the fear. Her body remembered weeks of surviving in a 42-degree room. Dad? Her voice echoed down the hallway. Graham, someone! Footsteps, running, doors opening, lights flashing on. Graham drove her to the hospital, 90 miles an hour on icy roads, running red lights, not caring. Howard called ahead. The best doctors were waiting when they arrived. Private room, full team, everything money could provide. The contractions came in waves. Irregular, unpredictable, terrifying. Dr. Susan Hartley examined her, ran tests, checked the monitors. The baby's heartbeat filled the room. Strong, steady. It's prodromal labor, Dr. Hartley said finally. False labor triggered by stress. Your body is trying to protect you, trying to deliver early. Is the baby okay? The baby is fine. Strong heartbeat, good movement, no distress. Carrie exhaled. Her whole body sagged with relief. But you're not fine, Dr. Hartley continued. Your blood pressure is elevated. Your cortisol levels are through the roof. Your body has been in fight or flight mode for weeks. The cold, Carrie said. My husband was keeping my room at 42 degrees. Hartley's expression shifted. Professional neutrality hardened into something else. That explains a lot. Prolonged exposure to cold temperatures during pregnancy causes significant stress responses. It's a form of physical abuse. Abuse. There was that word again. You need real rest, Dr. Hartley said. No more stress, no more legal proceedings, no more anything until this baby comes safely into the world. The trial can wait. Your daughter cannot. Daughter, the words settled into Carrie's chest. She had been right all along. Margaret, her daughter. That night, alone in her childhood bedroom, Carrie finally broke. Not the quiet crying she had learned to do in her marriage. Not the silent tears she shed on bathroom floors. Not the controlled grief she showed her father and brother. Real breaking. Ugly, gasping sobs that shook her whole body. Snot and tears and sounds she did not recognize. Animal sounds. Primal sounds. I married him. I chose him. I thought he loved me. The thoughts spiraled downward, faster and faster. I was going to raise a child with a man who was trying to freeze us to death. I was going to spend my life with someone who wanted me to lose my baby. What kind of mother am I? What kind of person am I that I didn't see it? She cried until her eyes swelled shut, until her throat was raw, until her body had nothing left to give. And then, exhausted beyond exhaustion, she got out of bed. Her feet carried her to her old closet, the one filled with childhood memories, ballet shoes and prom dresses and graduation caps. In the back corner, in a box marked Mom's Things, she found it. A bottle of lavender perfume, mostly empty, almost 18 years old. Her mother had worn this perfume every single day. The smell of it meant bedtime stories and scraped knees and Sunday morning pancakes. The smell of it meant safety and love and home. Carrie sat on the closet floor, the bottle pressed against her chest, the faint scent of lavender reaching her nose. I don't know what to do, Mom. Silence. Of course, silence. Her mother had been dead for 18 years. But somehow in that silence, Carrie heard an answer. You didn't fail, sweetheart. She said the words out loud, in her mother's voice, the voice she remembered from childhood. You survived. That's not failing. That's winning. The words settled into her bones, true, real. She was still here. The baby was still here. They had both survived Derek's cruelty. Survival was not weakness. Survival was strength. The baby kicked, gentle this time, like a reassurance, like an agreement. Carrie stayed on the closet floor until dawn, holding her mother's perfume, breathing in lavender and memories. When the sun finally rose, she was different. Not healed, not whole, but different, stronger. Morning came soft and gray. Snow fell gently outside the window. Howard knocked on her door. Careful, gentle. Carrie, there's someone here to see you. In the living room, looking uncomfortable in her worn coat, stood Dorothy Weaver, the Ashford family housekeeper for 20 years. I have something else, Dorothy said, her hands twisted nervously in her lap. Something I didn't want to put on that flash drive. Something you need to hear in person. They sat in Howard's study. The fire crackled low. Graham brought tea that no one drank. Derek's mother called him 2 nights before you left, Dorothy began. I already gave you that recording. But there was another call, the night after. Dorothy took a shaky breath. Judith said, the doctors are ready. if Carrie starts making accusations, we commit her within 48 hours. The pregnancy will be monitored at a facility. As soon as the baby is born, Derek takes custody. Carrie's blood turned to ice. They had everything planned, Dorothy continued. The psychiatric facility, the doctors who would sign whatever papers Derek needed, the lawyers who would argue she was an unfit mother. Howard's voice was barely controlled. How long? How long have they been planning this? Since Carrie got pregnant, maybe before. Judith never wanted Derek to marry her. She thought your family was too powerful. She was afraid you would control Derek through Carrie. The irony was almost funny. Judith had been afraid of Howard controlling Derek, so she helped Derek try to destroy Carrie first. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Graham asked. Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. Because I was scared. Because Judith threatened to have me deported. Because Derek said he would destroy my life if I talked. She looked at Carrie. But then I watched you on those cameras. I watched you sit on that bathroom floor. I watched you talk to your baby. I watched you fight to survive every single night. Dorothy wiped her eyes, and I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Some things matter more than fear. Small acts of reclamation. That was how Carrie began to heal. She decorated the nursery in her father's house, not lavender like she had originally planned. Something new, something that belonged only to her and her daughter. Soft sage green, like new growth, like spring after a long winter. She painted the walls herself, standing on a stepladder despite Howard's protests. Brushstrokes slow and careful, the smell of fresh paint filling her lungs. She hung the mobile above the crib spot, silver stars and golden moons, spinning slowly in the warm air, catching light, making magic. She built the crib with Graham, white wood, simple lines, something she chose, something Derek had no part in. She folded tiny clothes into tiny drawers, soft cotton onesies, pastel receiving blankets, each piece chosen by her own hands, paid for with her own money. The smell of new fabric, the click of the crib rail locking into place, the softness of blankets against her fingers. This was not giving up on the old house. This was not admitting defeat. This was building something Derek could never touch, something pure, something hers. The legal case moved forward without her direct involvement. Richard and Howard handled everything. They brought her updates, simple summaries, nothing stressful. Derek's government contracts have been suspended, Richard reported one afternoon. The Department of Defense takes allegations of abuse very seriously, especially abuse of pregnant women. His security clearance, Howard asked? Under review, which means effectively revoked. He can't access classified information. He can't work on sensitive projects. His business partner? Filed for complete dissolution of their company. He doesn't want any association with Derek Ashford. Carrie listened from her spot on the couch. Her hand rested on her belly. The baby was quiet today. Resting, growing. What does that mean for Derek financially, she asked. His entire net worth was tied up in that company. When it dissolves, he loses almost everything. Almost everything. The man who had tried to take everything from her was losing everything himself. How do you feel about that? Richard asked. Carrie considered the question, really considered it. I don't feel satisfied, she said. I thought I would feel satisfied or vindicated, but I just feel tired. Richard nodded. That's normal. Revenge is a fantasy. Justice is exhausting. The difference is that justice actually heals something. A letter arrived the following week. Handwritten, expensive stationery, the handwriting unfamiliar. Carrie opened it alone. In the nursery, surrounded by sage green walls and silver stars. Mrs. Ashford, I know you have no reason to believe anything I say. I know you probably hate me. I would hate me too. I didn't know. I need you to understand that. I didn't know about the cold. I didn't know about the plan. I didn't know about any of it. Derek told me your marriage was over. He said you had agreed to divorce after the baby came. He said you were staying together for appearances, for the sake of the pregnancy. I believed him. God help me. I believed everything he said. When I saw those text messages about hoping you would miscarry, I was horrified, physically sick. I couldn't eat for 3 days. I've already given a statement to the police. Everything I know about Derek, every lie he told me, every secret he shared. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm just asking you to believe that I didn't know. You were never crazy. You were never unstable. You were just trapped with a monster who convinced everyone otherwise. I'm sorry for my part in your pain. I hope your baby is healthy. I hope you find peace. Natalie Carey set down the letter. Her hands were steady. The other woman was not the villain. She had been manipulated too. Another casualty of Derek's charm. What do you want to do? Richard asked when she showed him the letter. Nothing. She's cooperating. That's enough. Richard raised an eyebrow. Most women in your position would want to destroy her too. I'm not most women, and destroying her doesn't help me heal. The wisdom came in quiet moments. Late nights in the nursery, early mornings watching sunrise through frost-covered windows. The space between contractions as her body prepared for birth. She understood things now, things she had not seen before. For 3 years, she had waited for permission. Permission to speak. Permission to leave. Permission to exist. Permission from Derek. Permission from society. Permission from her own fears. She had waited for someone to tell her she was allowed to be unhappy, allowed to be scared, allowed to want more. The permission was never coming from outside. It had always been inside her. I was my own warden. The thought arrived clearly one night, without judgment, without shame. The prison door was never locked. I just never tried to open it, but she had opened it now. She had walked out. She had chosen herself. That was the hardest part of healing. Accepting that she had always had the power, accepting that she had simply been too afraid to use it. Now she was not afraid anymore. The courtroom was full, standing room only, not press. Howard had kept them away, not spectators, just the right people. Derek's former business partners sat in the gallery, watching the man who had betrayed their trust, the women he had hurt before, Amber and Danielle and Victoria, sitting together, supporting each other. Judith Ashford, subpoenaed to testify, her face pale, her hands trembling. Dorothy Weaver, ready to share everything she had seen. Ann Carey, seated at the prosecution table, 8 months pregnant, calm, determined. Derek sat at the defendant's table. His suit was expensive but wrinkled. His lawyer was competent but overmatched. He looked diminished somehow, smaller than Carey remembered. The man who had filled every room now seemed to take up no space at all. The judge called the court to order. The jury filed in, 12 ordinary people about to decide an extraordinary case. The prosecution may call its first witness. The prosecution calls Caroline Mercer Ashford. Carey walked to the witness stand, sat down, placed her hand on her belly. Mrs. Ashford, can you describe the conditions in your bedroom during your pregnancy? Objection. Derek's lawyer stood. The witness? Overruled. Continue. Carey looked at the prosecutor, at the jury, at Derek. My husband programmed the heating system to drop my room to 42 degrees every night, from midnight to 6 in the morning, for 6 weeks, while I was 8 months pregnant. She described the cold, the shivering, the bathroom floors, the steam she created just to survive. She described the gaslighting, the words that made her doubt herself, the accusations of paranoia and hormones and instability. She described the isolation, the friends she lost, the job she quit, the family he tried to turn against her. She described watching the thermal footage, seeing herself as a small orange figure in a blue void, watching Derek walk past her door, watching him smile. She did not cry. Her voice did not waver. Her hands did not shake. She was not a victim telling her story. She was a survivor delivering testimony. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. One juror wiped her eyes. Another shook his head slowly. Derek stared at the table in front of him. He never looked up. Not once. Dorothy Weaver testified next. Then the installation technician. Then the other women. The evidence piled up, layer after layer, undeniable, overwhelming. The prosecutor played the recordings. Derek's voice. Judith's voice. If she loses the baby, she'll have nothing to fight for. She'll sign whatever I put in front of her. Just be patient. The cold is working. Give it another few weeks. The courtroom reacted, gasps, whispered curses. One juror looked like she might be sick. Judith Ashford took the stand, invoked her Fifth Amendment rights to every question. The thermal footage played on the courtroom screens, large, vivid, possible to deny. Carrie in blue, shivering, crying. Derek in orange, smiling, walking away. The jury watched in silence. Some took notes, others just stared. When the evidence presentation concluded, Derek's lawyer made a half-hearted closing argument. Reasonable doubt, circumstantial evidence, alternative explanations. No one believed him. Even Derek's lawyer did not seem to believe him. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. Carrie waited in a small room with her father and brother. Richard paced by the window. The minutes stretched like hours. 47 minutes is fast, Richard said. Very fast. Is that good? Graham asked. It's definitive, either very good or very bad. No middle ground. The door opened. A clerk appeared. They have a verdict. The foreperson stood. A woman in her 50s, gray hair, steady voice. On the charge of reckless endangerment in the first degree, how do you find the defendant? We find the defendant guilty, Carrie exhaled, her whole body lightened. On the charge of conspiracy to commit assault, how do you find? We find the defendant guilty, Howard squeezed her hand. On the charge of intentional infliction of emotional distress, how do you find? We find the defendant guilty. 3 counts, 3 guilty verdicts. Justice. Derek stood motionless. His face showed nothing. No remorse, no surprise, just emptiness. The judge set sentencing for 3 weeks. Derek was taken into custody immediately. Flight risk, the prosecutor argued. The judge agreed. Carrie watched her husband led away in handcuffs. The man she had promised to love forever. The man who had tried to kill their child. She felt something shift inside her. Not satisfaction, not revenge. Release, like setting down a weight she had carried for years. It was over. 3 days after the verdict, the sentencing hearing took place. The courtroom was quieter this time. Fewer spectators. The drama of the trial had passed. Now came the consequences. Derek Ashford stood before the judge. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair was unkempt. 3 days in county jail had stripped away his polish. He looked like what he was, a man who had lost everything. Carrie sat in the gallery. She had not planned to attend. Richard had advised against it. Howard had practically forbidden it. But she needed to see this. She needed to watch the final chapter of her marriage close forever. The judge, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes, reviewed the papers before her. Mr. Ashford, you have been found guilty on 3 counts. Reckless endangerment in the first degree, conspiracy to commit assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Derek stood motionless. His lawyer whispered something. Derek did not respond. Before I deliver the sentences, I want to address the nature of these crimes. The judge removed her glasses, looked directly at Derek. In my 32 years on the bench, I have seen many forms of cruelty, physical violence, financial fraud, crimes of passion, and crimes of calculation. She paused. But I have rarely seen cruelty as methodical and cold-blooded as yours. You did not strike your wife. You did not threaten her with weapons. You did something far more insidious. Her voice hardened. You made her doubt her own mind. You isolated her from everyone who loved her. You froze her in her own home while she carried your child, and you did it all with a smile. Derek's head dropped slightly, the first crack in his composure. The evidence shows that you planned this for months, that you hoped to cause your wife to miscarry, that you intended to have her committed to a psychiatric facility so you could steal her child and her family's money. The judge shook her head slowly. The law has specific words for physical abuse. We are only beginning to develop language for the kind of psychological torture you inflicted. But make no mistake, what you did was violence. What you did was abuse. What you did was evil. She put her glasses back on. Derek Ashford, I hereby sentence you to 7 years in state prison, 5 years for reckless endangerment, 1 year for conspiracy, 1 year for intentional infliction of emotional distress, sentences to run consecutively. 7 years, more than anyone had expected. Additionally, you are ordered to pay restitution to your victim in the amount of $2 million. You are permanently barred from contacting Carolyn Mercer or her children. You will be registered as a domestic abuser in the state of Connecticut. The judge closed her folder. I hope you use your time in prison to reflect on the damage you have caused. I hope you find whatever humanity you have lost. But frankly, Mr. Ashford, I doubt you will. She banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. Derek was led away in handcuffs. He passed within 3 feet of Carrie, close enough to touch. For a moment, their eyes met. Carrie expected to see anger, hatred, defiance. Instead, she saw nothing. Empty eyes, a hollow man. He looked away first. As the guards led him through the door, Carrie felt something release in her chest. A knot she had carried for years. A weight she had forgotten she was holding. Howard appeared beside her, his hand on her shoulder. It's over, sweetheart. Is it? The legal part is. The healing part is just beginning. She looked at her father, at the lines on his face, the gray in his hair. He had aged 10 years in the past 6 months. Thank you, Dad, for believing me, for fighting for me. I would burn down the world for you, Carrie, you know that. She did know that. She had always known that, but she had forgotten for a while. Derek had made her forget. Let's go home, she said. Judith Ashford's sentencing came a week later. She received 5 years of probation, a permanent restraining order, community service at a domestic violence shelter. The irony was not lost on anyone. Her social standing evaporated overnight. The country club revoked her membership. The charity boards asked for her resignation. The friends who had admired her for decades suddenly could not remember her name. Some people whispered that Judith's punishment was worse than prison. She had to watch her entire world crumble while remaining free to see it. Others said she deserved far worse. Carrie did not care either way. Judith Ashford was no longer part of her story. The other women continued to come forward. A 4th victim emerged, then a 5th. Women from Derek's past who had buried their trauma for years. Women who finally felt safe enough to speak. Criminal charges were filed in 2 other states. Derek's 7 years in Connecticut would be followed by additional sentences elsewhere. By the time the legal system finished with Derek Ashford, he would be in his 50s before he saw freedom again. The pattern of abuse that had defined his adult life would follow him forever. Every background check, every job application, every relationship. He would never be able to hide again. 2 nights after Judith's sentencing, Carrie went into labor. It started at 11:30 in the evening, a subtle tightening, a pressure she recognized from the false alarms. But this felt different. This felt real. She called Dr. Hartley first, then her father, then Graham. It's time, she said. The baby is coming. Howard drove her to the hospital. Graham followed in his own car. The roads were quiet. The February night was cold and clear. Carrie sat in the back seat, her hands on her belly, feeling the contractions build. Are you scared? Howard asked. A little, but not the bad kind of scared, the excited kind. Your mother felt the same way when you were born. She said it was like waiting for Christmas and a thunderstorm at the same time. Carrie smiled. That's exactly right. The delivery room was warm, bright, filled with competent people and beeping machines. Dr. Hartley examined her, checked the monitors, nodded with satisfaction. You're progressing beautifully. This baby wants to meet her mother. Her? Dr. Hartley smiled. I've been doing this for 20 years, I can tell. This one is a girl. Carrie had known, somehow she had always known. Margaret, her daughter. The contractions intensified. Hour by hour, wave after wave. Megan arrived around 2 in the morning. She had driven from New York, 3 hours in the middle of the night. You think I would miss this? She took Carrie's hand. I've been waiting to meet this baby for months. Thank you for being here. There's nowhere else I would be. The hours passed, the pain grew. Carrie breathed through each contraction, focused on her body, trusted the process. At 4:15, Dr. Hartley announced she was ready to push. This is it, Carrie. Time to meet your daughter. Carrie pushed, screamed, pushed again. The pain was enormous, overwhelming. unlike anything she had ever experienced. But underneath the pain was something else: power, strength, the ancient knowledge of every woman who had ever given birth. She was doing this. She was bringing life into the world. At 4:47 in the morning, on a cold February day exactly 1 year after her escape from Derek's house, Margaret Rose Mercer entered the world. The cry came immediately, strong and loud, announcing her arrival. Dr. Hartley placed the baby on Carrie's chest, warm and wet and perfect, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, 10 fingers, 10 toes, a full head of dark hair, dark blue eyes that would later turn brown like her mother's. "Hello, baby girl," Carrie whispered. "I'm your mama. I've been waiting so long to meet you." Margaret made a small sound, not quite a cry, more like an answer. "I'm here. I made it. We made it together," Carrie cried, tears streaming down her face, soaking into her hospital gown. Good tears, healing tears, tears of awe and relief and overwhelming love. This was why she had survived. This was what Derek had tried to take. This tiny, perfect person who was looking up at her with curious eyes. He had failed. She had won. And here was the proof. Howard and Graham came in 30 minutes later. Howard took one look at his granddaughter and burst into tears. Real, uncontrolled sobs that shook his entire body. "She looks like Margaret," he said. "She looks exactly like your mother." Graham held the baby next, his big hands surprisingly gentle, his eyes wet. "Hey there, little one. I'm your Uncle Graham. I'm going to teach you how to code and how to throw a football and how to spot liars from a mile away." "That's a lot of responsibility for a 30-minute-old person," Carrie said. "She can handle it. She's a Mercer." They passed the baby around, took pictures, made phone calls. The room filled with hoe and case and love. At some point, Carrie fell asleep. Margaret nestled in the bassinet beside her, the monitors beeping softly. She dreamed of her mother, of lavender perfume and warm hands and a voice saying, "You did good, sweetheart. You did so good." The house in Connecticut sold at auction 3 weeks after Margaret was born. Carrie did not attend the auction. She did not want to see the house again, did not want to remember the cold rooms and the lease and the fear. The final price was $2.3 million. Every penny went to a domestic violence shelter in Hartford. A new wing was built, named after Margaret Mercer, the first Margaret, Carrie's mother. The shelter provided emergency housing for women escaping abuse, legal assistance, counseling, job training, everything Carrie had needed but did not know how to find. "This is your legacy," Howard told the baby one afternoon. "Before you could walk or talk, you helped save lives." Margaret drooled on his tie. Howard did not seem to mind. Mercer Industries established a foundation in Margaret's name, the Margaret Rose Foundation, dedicated to supporting victims of coercive control and psychological abuse. The foundation funded research into non-physical abuse patterns, trained law enforcement to recognize signs of coercive control, lobbied for stronger legislation protecting victims. Within 2 years, the Margaret Rose Foundation became the leading organization in the country fighting psychological abuse. Carrie sat on the board, not as a figurehead, as an active participant. She reviewed grant applications, spoke at conferences, shared her story with anyone who would listen. "I want other women to know they're not crazy," she said in interview after interview. "I want them to know that what's happening to them has a name, that help exists, that they can escape." Her story reached millions. Women wrote to her from every state, from other countries, women who recognized themselves in her experience. Some of them left their abusers. Some of them got help. Some of them survived. That was the real victory. Not Derek's prison sentence, not the money, not the public vindication. The real victory was every woman who heard Carrie's story and realized she was not alone. 4 months after Margaret was born, Carrie moved to Vermont. She found the farmhouse on a drive through the countryside. White clapboard walls, green shutters, a wraparound porch with a view of the mountains. It was nothing like the house in Connecticut. No smart home systems, no zone controls, no hidden cameras or temperature sensors, just a simple house, warm and solid and real. "Are you sure about this?" Howard asked. "Vermont is far away. We won't see you as often." That's part of why I'm going. I need to build my own life, Dad. Not the life Derek tried to create. Not the life you created for me. My own life. Howard nodded slowly. Your mother would be proud of you. I hope so. I know so. The farmhouse needed work. The roof leaked in 2 places. The porch railing was rotting. The garden had been neglected for years. Carrie fixed it herself, mostly. She hired contractors for the dangerous work, but she painted the walls herself, sanded the floors herself, planted the garden herself. Each repair was an act of reclamation. Each improvement was a declaration of independence. This was her house, her choice, her life. Margaret grew in the Vermont sunshine, learned to crawl on the hardwood floors, took her first steps on the wraparound porch, said her first word in the kitchen while Carrie made breakfast. Mama. Carrie dropped the spatula, spun around. What did you say? Margaret grinned, showed off her 4 teeth. Mama. Carrie scooped her up, spun her around, laughed until she cried. Yes, baby girl, I'm your mama, forever and always. The town of Willowbrook embraced them. Population 3,000, 1 main street, 2 churches, a general store that sold everything from milk to ammunition. People waved when Carrie drove past, brought casseroles when Margaret was sick, offered to babysit when Carrie needed a break. We take care of our own here, said Martha, the elderly woman who lived next door. And you're one of ours now. Carrie had never felt so welcomed. In Greenwich, she had been Howard Mercer's daughter, Derek Ashford's wife, a role to play, an image to maintain. In Willowbrook, she was just Carrie, the young mother in the farmhouse on Oak Hill Road, the woman with the cute baby and the beautiful garden. She made friends, real friends, women who did not care about her family's money or her tragic past, women who liked her for herself. They met for coffee on Saturday mornings, went hiking on Sunday afternoons, shared recipes and babysitting duties and bottles of wine on warm summer evenings. For the first time in years, Carrie felt like she belonged somewhere. James appeared in her life on a Tuesday afternoon. Margaret was 8 months old. Carrie had adopted a dog from the local shelter, a golden retriever mix named Biscuit, sweet but neurotic, terrified of thunderstorms. Biscuit needed vaccinations. Carrie took her to the only veterinary clinic in town, Willowbrook Animal Hospital. James was the veterinarian, tall, brown hair going gray at the temples, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. This must be Biscuit, he said, kneeling to greet the dog. I've heard about you. You have? Martha told me you adopted her. She's been keeping tabs on this one for months. Nobody wanted her because of the anxiety issues. She just needs patience. And thunder shirts, lots of thunder shirts. James laughed, a warm, genuine sound. I think you two are going to be perfect for each other. He examined Biscuit, gave her shots, wrote prescriptions, normal veterinary things. But his eyes kept drifting to Margaret, who was babbling happily in her carrier. How old? He asked. 8 months, almost 9. She's beautiful, looks just like her mother. Carrie felt herself blush, actually blush, like a teenager. Thank you. I'm sorry. That was probably too personal. Professional hazard. I spend more time with animals than people. It's fine, really. He smiled. She smiled back. Something passed between them. Something quiet, something possible. James started appearing more often after that. He dropped by the farmhouse to check on Biscuit, brought treats he happened to have extra of, asked about Margaret's developmental milestones with suspicious enthusiasm. You know, Megan said during one of her visits, that man is clearly interested in you. He's just being friendly. Friendly veterinarians don't drive 20 minutes to make house calls for routine checkups. Friendly veterinarians don't bring homemade dog biscuits wrapped in ribbon. Carrie looked at the jar of biscuits on her counter. They were wrapped in ribbon, blue ribbon that matched Biscuit's collar. Oh, yeah, oh. She was not ready. She knew she was not ready. The wounds from Derek were still healing. The trust she had lost was slowly rebuilding. But James was patient. James was kind. James never pushed. He came for dinner once a week, helped with repairs around the farmhouse, played with Margaret while Carrie cooked, walked Biscuit when Carrie needed a break. He never asked for anything, never expected anything. He was simply present, available, consistent. Why? Carrie asked him one evening. They were sitting on the porch. Margaret was asleep. The stars were bright overhead. Why what? Why do you keep coming around? I'm a mess. I have a baby. I have baggage you can't even imagine. Why would you want any of this? James was quiet for a long moment. My wife died 4 years ago. Cancer. We were married for 12 years. Carrie had not known. No one in town had mentioned it. After she passed, I thought I would never feel anything again. I went through the motions, showed up at work, came home, existed. He looked at her. Then you walked into my clinic with that ridiculous dog and that beautiful baby. And something woke up. Something I thought was dead forever. James. I'm not asking for anything, Carrie. I don't expect anything. I just want to be around you, whatever that means, however long it takes. She took his hand. His fingers were warm, calloused from work, real. I'm scared, she said. I know. I don't know if I can trust anyone again. I know that too. I might never be ready for a real relationship. Then I'll wait, or I'll be your friend, whatever you need. She looked at him, at his kind eyes, his patient smile, the gray at his temples. Okay, she said. Okay? Okay, you can keep coming around, but slowly, really slowly. He smiled, squeezed her hand. I'm a veterinarian. Slow is what I do. Slowly became their word. Slowly they had dinner together more often. Slowly the dinners turned into evenings. Slowly the evenings turned into weekends. Slowly Carrie began to trust again. James never rushed her, never pressured her, never made her feel small or crazy or wrong. When she had nightmares about the cold room, he held her hand and said nothing. When she cried for no reason, he brought her tea and sat quietly beside her. When she flinched at sudden movements, he learned to approach slowly. He was everything Derek had pretended to be. Kind without agenda, patient without expectation, loving without conditions. Margaret adored him, called him Jamesy before she could pronounce his full name, reached for him when he walked through the door, fell asleep in his arms during evening walks. She's never done that with anyone else, Carrie said one night. Not even my father. Kids know, James said. They know who's safe. 1 year after moving to Vermont, Carrie realized she was happy, not the performative happiness of her marriage, not the desperate hope that things would get better. Real happiness. Deep and quiet and sustainable. She woke up smiling, went to bed satisfied, found joy in small things, coffee on the porch, Margaret's laughter, Biscuit's ridiculous anxiety, James's terrible jokes. The nightmares faded, the hypervigilance eased. The constant fear that something bad was about to happen slowly released its grip. She was healing, really, truly healing. On a morning in late September, Carrie took a pregnancy test. She sat on the bathroom floor, the same position she had assumed on that terrible night in Connecticut. But everything else was different. The house was warm. Margaret was playing in the next room. Biscuit was snoring on the bed. The test showed 2 lines. Positive. She told James that afternoon, on the porch, their spot. I'm pregnant. He stared at her, processing. 3 months along. I wasn't sure at first. I thought it was stress or early menopause, but no. Carrie, I understand if this is too much. We've been taking things slow. A baby is the opposite of slow. I can do this alone. I've done it before. I'm not asking you to. He kissed her, gently, firmly. A real kiss. Their first real kiss. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. I love you, he said. I've loved you for months. I was trying to take it slow, trying to be patient. But I love you and I love Margaret, and I will love this baby too. Carrie's heart expanded, filled with something she thought she had lost forever. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. It won't be easy. Good things rarely are. She laughed, cried, laughed again. I love you too, she said. I didn't know if I could, but I do. He pulled her close, held her tight. She felt his heartbeat against her cheek. Steady, strong, real. Let's do this, he said. Let's build a life together. Okay? Okay? Okay. They were married in the spring, a small ceremony, the backyard of the farmhouse. Margaret as the flower girl, toddling down the aisle with a basket of dandelions. Howard walked Carrie down the aisle, His eyes wet, his smile wide. Your mother is watching, he whispered. I can feel her. I feel her too. Megan was the maid of honor. Graham stood as best man. Martha from next door officiated. She had gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. Dearly beloved, Martha began, we are gathered here to witness something beautiful. The joining of two souls who found each other despite everything. Carrie looked at James, at his kind eyes, his nervous smile, the way his hands shook slightly as he held hers. I've known Carrie for 2 years now, Martha continued. I watched her arrive in Willowbrook. A woman fleeing something terrible, a mother protecting her child, a survivor searching for peace. Martha smiled at James. And I've known James for 20 years. Watched him lose his wife. Watched him fade into himself. Watched him forget how to live. She looked at both of them. What I've witnessed between you two is nothing short of miraculous. Two broken people who somehow tied each other whole. Two wounded hearts that somehow learned to trust again. Carrie's eyes filled with tears. Good tears. The best kind of tears. Marriage isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other. Every day. In good times and bad. In health and sickness. In joy and sorrow. James squeezed Carrie's hands. It's about promising to never make each other feel small. To never make each other doubt. To never leave each other cold. Carrie almost laughed. Martha knew her story. Everyone in Willowbrook knew her story. They loved her anyway. James, do you take Carrie to be your wife? To love her, honor her, and cherish her? To be her partner in all things? To be a father to her children? I do, James said, his voice steady, certain. Carrie, do you take James to be your husband? To love him, honor him, and trust him? To let him into your heart? To build a family together? Carrie looked at James, at the man who had waited, who had been patient, who had never made her feel wrong for healing, slowly. I do, Martha grinned. Then by the power vested in me by the internet in the state of Vermont, I pronounce you husband and wife. James, you may kiss your bride. He did, gently, thoroughly, to cheers from the small crowd. Margaret clapped. Biscuit barked. Howard cried openly. They were a family, a real family, built from the ashes of everything that had been destroyed. The baby came in October, a boy this time. 8 pounds, 1 ounce, brown hair like his mother, blue eyes like his father. They named him William, after our James's grandfather, after a man who had been kind and patient and good. William James Sullivan, a name with weight, a name with meaning. Margaret was fascinated by her little brother, wanted to hold him constantly, brought him toys he was too young to use, sang him songs she made up herself. Gentle, Carrie reminded her. He's very small. I know, Mama. I'm being careful. He's my brother. My brother. The words made Carrie's heart ache with joy. Margaret did not remember the cold, did not remember the fear, did not remember anything about Derek or the house in Connecticut. Her earliest memories would be of Vermont, of the farmhouse, of James and Biscuit and William and love. That was the greatest victory of all. 3 years passed. Margaret started kindergarten. William learned to walk. Biscuit mellowed with age. The farmhouse expanded with additions and improvements. James's veterinary practice thrived. Carrie's foundation grew. Their family multiplied with pets and friends and community. Derek remained in prison. His appeals were denied. His parole was rejected. The other states added time to his sentence. Carrie received a letter from him once, just once. She did not open it. She gave it to Richard, who passed it to the authorities. She did not need to read his words. She did not need his apology or his explanation or his attempts at manipulation. He was the past. She lived in the present. On a quiet evening in February, Carrie sat on the wraparound porch. 4 years since her escape. 4 years since the thermal cameras revealed the truth. 4 years since she walked out of her prison and into her freedom. Margaret was 6 now. William was 3. James was inside, putting them to bed. She could hear his voice through the window, reading their favorite story. The night was cold, Vermont winter cold, real cold. But the house behind her was warm. Every room, every corner, 68 degrees throughout. She had chosen this house specifically for that. Simple heating, reliable warmth, no zone controls, No smart systems. No way for anyone to freeze her out. Some scars never fully heal. Some fears never completely fade. But they become manageable, livable, part of who you are rather than all of who you are. The door opened. James came out, 2 cups of hot chocolate in his hands. "Kids are asleep," he said. "Finally." William fought it. "Like always, he's got your stubbornness." Carrie smiled, took the mug. The warmth seeped into her hands. "What are you thinking about?" James asked. "February, this month, everything that happened." He sat beside her, close, solid. "Do you want to talk about it?" "Not really. I just want to remember that it's over, that I'm here, that we're here." James took her hand, his fingers intertwined with hers. "We're here," he agreed, "and we're not going anywhere." They sat in silence, watching stars appear in the darkening sky, feeling the cold air on their faces and the warmth of the house behind them. Carrie thought about everything she had lost: her innocence, her trust, her first marriage, years of her life spent in fear and confusion. She thought about everything she had gained: Margaret, William, James, this house, this town, this life. The scale tipped toward gain, overwhelmingly. "I'm grateful," she said suddenly. "For what?" "For everything, even the hard parts, even Derek." James looked at her, surprised. "Not grateful for what he did, never that, but grateful that I survived, grateful that I got out, grateful that his cruelty led me here, to Vermont, to you." She squeezed his hand. "If I had stayed in that life, I would have died. Maybe not physically, but everything that makes me me would have been destroyed. He would have succeeded eventually. But you got out." "I got out, and I found this, found you, found a life I never knew I wanted." James kissed her forehead, gentle, loving. "You're the strongest person I know, Carrie." "I'm not strong, I just survived." "That is strength, the strongest kind." Later that night, Carrie walked through the house, her ritual, her routine. She checked on Margaret, sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. She checked on William, sprawled across his bed, covers kicked off. She pulled them back up. She checked on Biscuit, snoring in her dog bed, dreaming doggy dreams. She checked on James, already asleep, waiting for her. The thermostat glowed steady, 68 degrees, every room. Carrie climbed into bed, snuggled against her husband, felt his arm wrap around her automatically. Warm, safe, loved. The cold could not touch her anymore. Nothing could. She closed her eyes, listened to the sounds of her family sleeping, the creaks of the old house settling, the wind in the Vermont mountains. She had survived the coldest winter of her life, walked through fire and ice and come out transformed. And now, finally, she was home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new moments of fear and hope and love. That was life, beautiful and terrifying and worth every moment. But tonight she was safe. Tonight she was free. Tonight she was surrounded by people who loved her unconditionally. Tonight and every night from now until forever, the house would stay warm. That was her promise to herself. That was her victory. That was her happily ever after. Not a fairy tale ending, something better, something real. A life rebuilt from ashes, a heart healed from wounds, a future bright with possibility. The cold could not break her. Nothing could break her, not anymore. And that is how Caroline Mercer survived the coldest winter of her life. Not the cold of February in Connecticut, but the cold of a man who never loved her, a man who tried to freeze away their unborn child. She walked through fire and ice. She found justice. She found love again. And she proved that no amount of cruelty can break a woman who refuses to stay broken. If this story moved you, if it made you angry, if it gave you hope, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories like this, stories of survival and justice and women who fight back, hit that subscribe button. Ring the notification bell so you never miss a story. Thank you for staying until the end. You are the reason I tell these stories. Until next time, stay warm, stay strong, stay free.